He spent years protecting her from a truth that could either break her heart or finally set her free. Inside a private mansion overlooking the lights of New York City, Daniel Park carried a secret that no amount of success could erase. The Korean Mafia boss with white skin, a tattoo on his neck, and a reputation for being calm under pressure was a man many people respected, but very few truly understood. Behind his serious expression was a promise he had carried for years, a promise connected to the one person who unknowingly changed the way he viewed the world. Her name was Maya Johnson, the Black Maid who worked inside the Park mansion with quiet confidence and endless kindness. To everyone around them, Maya was known as the woman who helped keep the mansion organized, treated every guest with respect, and never allowed anyone's opinion to change the way she treated others. But hidden beneath the surface was a story that had followed her for years. Everyone believed Maya was connected to the Park family through an old secret involving Daniel's father, Richard Park. They believed she was his half-sister, someone tied to the family by a past nobody openly discussed. Maya believed it too, and because of that belief, she created a careful distance between herself and Daniel. She respected him, trusted him, and appreciated his kindness, but she always thought there was a boundary between their worlds that could never be crossed. What Maya never knew was that Daniel held the final piece of the truth. Locked inside his private study was a letter written by Richard before he passed away, explaining that Maya was never related to the Park family by blood. Richard had helped her because he saw a young woman with incredible strength who deserved a chance, not because of a hidden family connection. Daniel wanted to tell her many times, but his father had asked him to wait until Maya understood that her worth came from who she was, not from a powerful last name. Every day, Daniel watched Maya prove that truth without even knowing it. She showed compassion when others showed judgment. She offered patience when others misunderstood her. She carried dignity even when people failed to recognize it. One quiet evening, Daniel entered his study and opened the drawer containing Richard's old letter. The mansion was silent, but the decision in front of him felt louder than ever. He realized that protecting Maya was no longer about keeping the truth hidden. It was about trusting her enough to finally let her know it. And as he held the letter in his hands, Daniel understood that the secret he carried for years was about to change both of their lives forever. The next morning inside the Park mansion felt ordinary to everyone else, but Daniel Park knew something had changed. The letter from Richard Park was no longer just a hidden memory from the past. It had become a responsibility waiting to be faced. The Korean Mafia boss with white skin, a tattoo on his neck, and a powerful presence had spent years making decisions without hesitation. But telling Maya Johnson the truth was different from anything he had ever done before. This was not about protecting an image or controlling a situation. This was about a woman who deserved to understand the story that shaped her life. Maya continued her daily work inside the mansion with the same kindness that made everyone feel welcomed. The Black Maid moved through the large halls with quiet confidence, making sure everything was cared for while never asking for attention. Some guests only saw her uniform, but Daniel saw the person behind it. He noticed how she remembered small details about people, how she listened when others needed support, and how she remained respectful even when people underestimated her. Yet he also noticed the invisible wall she kept around herself. Maya believed the old story about her connection to the Park family, and because of that, she never allowed herself to imagine that her future could be different. Later that evening, the mansion hosted a formal gathering filled with respected guests and familiar faces. Conversations filled the rooms as city lights shined through the windows. During the event, Maya handled every moment with patience and intelligence, solving problems quietly before anyone else noticed them. Daniel watched as people slowly realized there was more to her than they first assumed. It reminded him of what his father had always said, that a person's true value appears in their actions when they expect nothing in return. After the gathering ended and the mansion became peaceful again, Daniel found Maya near the hallway looking at an old family photograph. She admitted that she often wondered why her past felt like a story with missing pages. Daniel looked at the letter in his hand, and understood that the moment he had delayed for years had finally arrived. He knew the truth might challenge everything Maya believed about herself, but it would also give her the freedom to see who she truly was. The silence between them was no longer about hiding. It was the final moment before honesty replaced years of unanswered questions. The quiet hallway of the Park mansion became the place where years of uncertainty finally started to unfold. Maya Johnson looked at the old letter in Daniel Park's hand and felt that the questions she had carried for so long were about to find their answers. The Black Maid who had always faced life with patience and kindness suddenly stood before a truth she never expected. Daniel remained calm, but behind his serious expression was a man who understood how deeply this moment could affect everything Maya believed about her past. The Korean Mafia boss with white skin, a tattoo on his neck, and a powerful presence had spent years protecting Richard Park's final message, but now he knew that silence could no longer help either of them move forward. As they entered the private study, Daniel carefully placed the letter on the desk and explained why his father had written it. Richard had always admired Maya's strength and character, but the story people repeated for years was never complete. She was not connected to the Park family by blood. She was someone Richard chose to help because he believed a person's future should not be limited by difficult beginnings. Maya listened without speaking as every word changed the memories she had carried for years. She remembered all the moments she stepped back, believing there was a line she was never supposed to cross. She remembered choosing silence because she thought her place in the family story had already been decided. Now she realized that the boundary was created by a misunderstanding. Daniel explained that he wanted to tell her many times, but Richard wanted Maya to discover her own confidence first. He never wanted her to think her value came from being connected to a powerful name. The room became still as Maya held the letter and understood the meaning behind those years of waiting. The truth did not erase who she was. It revealed that everything she had earned came from her own heart, choices, and actions. For the first time, Maya saw her journey without the shadow of a false identity. Daniel watched quietly as the person he respected most finally understood what he had seen all along. She was never important because of the Park name. She was important because of the kindness and dignity she carried before she ever knew the truth. The days after the truth was revealed felt different inside the Park mansion. The same hallways, the same rooms, and the same city lights outside the windows remained unchanged. But Maya Johnson no longer saw herself through the shadow of a story she never chose. The Black Maid who spent years believing her identity was connected to a hidden family secret finally understood that her value had existed long before she learned the truth. She looked back at every moment when she questioned where she belonged and realized that her kindness, patience, and strength had always been her own. Daniel Park noticed the quiet change in her. The Korean Mafia boss with white skin, a tattoo on his neck, and a powerful presence had spent years carrying Richard Park's final request, believing that protecting Maya meant keeping the secret until the right moment. But watching her now, he understood something deeper. Protecting someone was not only about preventing difficult moments. Sometimes it meant trusting them enough to face those moments and grow stronger from them. One afternoon, Maya returned to Daniel's study where the letter was kept safely. She read Richard's words again, not with confusion this time, but with a sense of peace. She finally understood why he wanted her to build confidence before knowing the truth. Richard never wanted her to measure herself by the Park family name. He wanted her to recognize the qualities she already carried. Maya thought about all the years she worked quietly, the people she helped, and the respect she earned without ever asking for attention. None of those moments came from a title or connection. They came from who she chose to be. Daniel admitted that his silence was not perfect and that he had learned from it as well. He realized honesty required courage, even when the outcome was uncertain. Maya respected that admission because she saw that Daniel was also changing. The man who once believed he had to carry every burden alone was learning that real strength included openness and trust. As evening settled over New York, the mansion that once held unanswered questions became a place of understanding. The secret that created distance between them no longer controlled their lives. It became the lesson that helped them see themselves and each other with more honesty than ever before. The following weeks became a period of reflection and growth for both Maya Johnson and Daniel Park. The truth that once seemed impossible to reveal had finally brought clarity instead of distance. Maya continued her daily life inside the Park mansion, but something within her had changed. The Black Maid who once believed her story was shaped by someone else's decisions now understood that every meaningful part of her journey came from her own choices. She did not need a family name, a title, or approval from powerful people to recognize her own worth. Her kindness during difficult moments, her patience when others misunderstood her, and her ability to remain humble had created the respect she carried today. Daniel Park watched that transformation with quiet admiration. The Korean Mafia boss with white skin, a tattoo on his neck, and a powerful presence had always been surrounded by people who respected his position, but Maya taught him something different. She showed him that the strongest influence came not from reputation, but from the way a person treated others when nobody was watching. One evening, Daniel invited Maya to attend an important community event connected to Richard Park's old foundation. At first, Maya wondered if she belonged in a room filled with successful and influential people. For years, she had been comfortable standing behind the scenes, making sure others were recognized. But Daniel reminded her that the invitation was not because of the Park family. It was because of the lives she had quietly impacted. When Maya entered the event, she saw people who remembered her compassion, her encouragement, and the moments when she helped without expecting anything in return. The conversations around her were no longer about where she came from. They were about the person she had become. Daniel stood nearby and realized that Richard's final lesson had reached both of them. Maya learned that her identity was never dependent on a secret from the past, while Daniel learned that protecting someone also meant allowing them to stand in their own strength. Later that night, they returned to the mansion where the old letter remained safely kept. It was no longer a symbol of hidden answers. It became a reminder of growth, honesty, and the courage to accept the truth. The silence between them was different now. It was not created by secrets. It was created by a peaceful understanding that everything they searched for had finally been found. Months after the truth finally came forward, the Park Mansion became a place filled with a different kind of silence. It was no longer the silence of secrets or unanswered questions. It was the quiet peace that appeared when people stopped hiding from the past and started learning from it. Maya Johnson continued building a new understanding of herself beyond the story she had believed for so many years. The Black Maid who once wondered if her place in the world had already been decided now realized that every person had the power to create their own path. Her confidence did not come from discovering a hidden truth. It came from recognizing the strength she had carried through every challenge before that truth was revealed. Daniel Park experienced his own transformation as well. The Korean Mafia boss with white skin, a tattoo on his neck, and a powerful presence had spent much of his life believing that responsibility meant carrying every difficult choice alone. But Maya showed him that even the strongest people needed honesty, trust, and the courage to let others make their own decisions. The more Daniel changed, the more people around him noticed. He became known not only for his influence, but for the respect he showed to those who had once been overlooked. One afternoon, Maya visited one of the community centers supported by Richard Park's foundation. She met people who reminded her of her younger self, people searching for confidence and a chance to prove their abilities. Instead of speaking about wealth or success, Maya spoke about patience, kindness, and believing in personal value even when the world did not immediately recognize it. Her words reached people because they came from experience. Daniel watched quietly from the back of the room, realizing that Maya had become exactly the person his father always believed she could be. She did not need the Park name to create change. She had created it through her own heart. Later that evening, as they returned to the mansion, Daniel looked at the old letter one final time before placing it among the family memories. It no longer carried the weight of a secret. It represented the moment they both learned a lesson that would stay with them forever. The past could explain where someone began, but only their choices could define who they became. Years after the truth changed everything, Maya Johnson became a symbol of quiet strength and self-belief. The Black Maid who once thought her identity was connected to a story written by others now understood that the most important chapters of her life were the ones she created herself. She continued working with Richard Park's Foundation, helping people who felt unseen find the confidence to move forward. Many people who met Maya did not remember her because of where she worked or the powerful people around her. They remembered the way she made them feel respected. Her kindness became her voice, and her actions became the proof that dignity could never be measured by status. Daniel Park watched her journey with a deeper understanding than he ever had before. The Korean Mafia boss with white skin, a tattoo on his neck, and a powerful presence had once believed that protecting someone meant standing between them and every difficult truth. But Maya's courage showed him that people grow when they're trusted with their own stories. He no longer carried every decision alone. He learned to listen, to share responsibility, and to value honesty above control. One evening, the foundation hosted a special gathering in New York to honor the people who had created positive change in the community. Maya was invited to speak, not because of her connection to the Park Mansion, but because of the countless moments when she chose compassion over judgment. As she stood in front of the audience, she remembered the woman she used to be, the one who questioned if she belonged. Now she understood that belonging was never something another person granted her. It was something built through character and courage. The room became silent as everyone listened to her words, recognizing the wisdom that came from experience. Daniel stood among the guests and realized that Richard's greatest hope had finally happened. Maya discovered her own worth without needing a name, title, or explanation from the past. Later that night, they walked through the quiet halls of the mansion where everything began. The walls that once held secrets now carried memories of growth and understanding. The journey that started with uncertainty had become a lesson about trust, respect, and seeing people for who they truly are. And in that peaceful moment, they both understood that the truth did not change Maya's value. It only revealed what had always been there. Time continued moving forward, but the lesson left behind by Maya Johnson and Daniel Park's journey remained stronger than ever. Inside the Park Mansion, the rooms that once carried unanswered questions had become reminders of growth, honesty, and understanding. The Black Maid who once believed her story was limited by a secret from the past had created a future defined by her own actions. Maya continued expanding the work of Richard Park's Foundation, reaching more communities across New York and showing people that dignity was not something given by status or recognition. It was something built through kindness, courage, and the way a person treated others. Daniel Park also became a different version of himself. The Korean Mafia boss with white skin, a tattoo on his neck, and a powerful presence was still respected by many, but the reason for that respect had changed. People no longer only noticed his success or reputation. They noticed his patience, his willingness to listen, and the humility he developed after learning from Maya. For years, Daniel thought protecting others meant hiding every difficult truth until the perfect moment arrived. But Maya showed him that real care meant trusting someone enough to let them face their own journey. One evening, Daniel attended a foundation celebration where Maya's work was recognized by the community. As she stood among people whose lives she had touched, she did not speak about the secret that once surrounded her. She spoke about the importance of seeing beyond appearances and understanding the person behind every story. The entire room listened quietly because her words carried the weight of experience. Daniel looked around and saw something his father had understood many years before. True influence was not created by fear, wealth, or a powerful name. It was created by the ability to make others feel valued. Later that night, Maya and Daniel returned to the mansion library where Richard's letter remained preserved. They no longer looked at it as a reminder of what was hidden. They saw it as proof of how far they had come. The misunderstanding that once separated them had become the reason they learned trust, honesty, and respect. In the quiet glow of the room, they understood that the truth had never been about changing who they were. It was about finally seeing who they had always been. Years later, the story of Maya Johnson and Daniel Park was no longer remembered because of a secret that once stood between them. It was remembered because of what they became after the truth was finally revealed. The Black Maid who once questioned where she belonged had grown into a woman who helped others discover their own strength. Maya never allowed her past confusion to define her future. Instead, she used every experience to understand people more deeply and remind them that their value was never connected to a title, background, or the opinions of others. Her journey proved that quiet kindness could create a lasting impact far beyond what anyone expected. Daniel Park carried that lesson with him every day. The Korean Mafia boss with white skin, a tattoo on his neck, and a powerful presence had changed from a man who believed responsibility meant carrying every secret alone into someone who understood the importance of honesty and trust. He realized that the strongest people were not those who controlled every situation, but those who respected others enough to let them choose their own direction. The Park Mansion that once held years of silence became a place filled with understanding and new beginnings. Richard Park's letter remained safely kept, not as a reminder of hidden pain, but as proof that the truth could open the door to growth. One evening, Maya stood near the mansion window, overlooking the lights of New York City. She thought about the woman she used to be and everything she had overcome. She realized that the secret she once feared did not take anything away from her. It only showed her that everything meaningful about her had already existed. Daniel stood nearby, knowing that the promise he carried for years had finally found its purpose. The distance created by misunderstanding had been replaced by respect and acceptance. They both understood that life was not defined by the things people discovered about the past, but by the choices they made afterward. The world around them had changed because they chose honesty over fear, compassion over judgment, and understanding over silence. And that day, the world remembered what dignity looks like.